So when we begin to look at those kind of behaviors, I began to watch a pathology in America around it. So we're real sick with this issue. So now we have to ask ourselves, what was the perspective of whites about this thing of freeing the slave? Because I'm going to get into what we had to deal with. But what was the issue around freeing these slaves? Let's see what old Thomas Jefferson had to say. Thomas Jefferson, who was a slaveholder throughout his entire adult life, had serious misgivings about ever incorporating freed blacks into the Union. He did not believe that a multiracial society was possible. His solution was to emancipate blacks, colonize them somewhere, and replace them with white immigrants. He theorized that violence was an inevitable outcome of slavery. Now, I understand that my dissertation topic, which is post-traumatic slave syndrome, focuses specifically on African-American male violence. That's what I'm looking at. And he quotes, "It will probably be asked, why not retain and incorporate the blacks into the state and thus save the expense of supplying by importation of white settlers the vacancies they will leave? Deep-rooted prejudices entertained by the white, 10,000 recollections by the blacks of the injuries they have sustained, new provocations, the real distinctions which nature has made, and many other circumstances will divide us into parties and produce convulsion which probably will never end but in the extermination of one or the other race. To these objections, which are political, may be added others which are physical and moral." That was his belief. Because you see, what he assumed was that our axiology was like his, and that we would do to them what they did to us. And I'm going to tell you something, one of the biggest fears and the most important clean sweeping event that has happened was the Million Man March. Because what the Million Man March did, now let me talk to you, it removed the myth in an instant of who we thought we were, as well as white people. Because you see, we didn't know we could do that either, because they had fully convinced us that three of us could not gather without someone dying. So what suddenly happened is everybody in the nation that was black was praying. Everybody I know was praying. And when they looked up, they went, oh my God, 1 million black men? And here's what happened in white people's psyche. You see, we had convinced them they couldn't come together. We had told them we had taught them to hate one another. We did all that, and oh my God, 1 million of them came together without incident. Well, if they could come together in peace, talk to me. Talk to me, and look who was leading them there. If they could convince one another they could come together in love, then what if they could come together and say, you know, we through with this? That was the fear. So they had to get the little Clarence Thomas types to get up and go, oh no, it wasn't all that. It was a farce and nothing happened. That's what they did. They got the blacks, the overseers. They got the overseers and the gatekeepers in there to try to tell everybody to, you know, don't worry about the Negroes. They still don't, and convince all the Negroes. That didn't happen. And these are the things that began to, again, awaken a people frightened by the prospect of us coming together. So I looked at all that. I started gathering the data, because, you know, I got to count and measure everything. I got to be able to measure it. That's the first thing, you know, it ain't real unless you can measure it, right? But there's something that I know. As a matter of fact, my dissertation committee, they're wonderful people. They got my back. But, you know, they're linear. And they're going to say, well, Joy, we got to be able to measure this thing. I said, then there's something I insist that you put into that measurement. Because, you know, there's linear sequential thought, and there's the whole measurement process and scientific inquiry and all that. I said, but you need to enter this into my data as an accurate and viable measurement. There's a quotation in scripture that says that the black man is like the pupil of the eye, surrounded by a sea of white, but it's the pupil which contains the sight that beholds what is before it. We are a people of vision. That's a spiritual truth. My Lord gave me that. And I insist that you use it as a criteria of measurement, because it is real. And you don't have it. And just because you don't have it does not mean it does not exist. And so they're sitting there going, I don't care if you can measure it. You probably don't have an instrument to measure it, but everybody in this room knows it's real because we had to learn how to read people, did we not? We could walk in the room and I don't know, because nobody sat down and gave us lessons, but we know how to read them. We go, okay, that man over there mad at that woman. You see? We in the room, we ain't ever moved. We just kind of looked up, we checked it out, said, oh wow, now that's the woman he's been with. You could tell that's it's getting ready to be on. Let me get on up. You know, we figured it out. We done figured it all out. You got white people in the same room going, did someone come in? They don't even know. Nothing going on. Now see, that is an ability which you and we have taken it totally for granted. Do you know that the ability to read people? Do you know that is way off the charts in terms of an ability? And we as children learned that. I don't know where it came from. I don't know if it is inherent that God gave this particular race that ability. My belief is that's where it is. We were born with this. It's an innate ability we have to read you. And that's why they have problems with our children, because our children read them. They read the teachers. They can read their insincerity. They can read their fear. They can read it. And because they can read it, they won't buy it. And that's why I always tell people, don't go in the community and don't come real. I said, there's something called heart. You know, it's interesting, our language. Well, the brother got heart. Yeah, but he had a heart. And white people going, have a heart. That man. You know, because we know he had it here. We could feel it. We could see it. And when they don't have hearts, he had no heart. That was a problem. He couldn't stay on the team. He had no heart. You know, he couldn't be in that job because he didn't have no heart. So we understand those whole other language around vision that they don't see. See, so I insisted that be a part of our measurement. And they varied. That's okay. They wrote it on there and they said, yo, I agree with you. They wrote it in a little thing because I said, I know we can see it. So now I'm beginning to look at the resilience, the strength of our people. Now, let me show you another one. When he said that we were fit for a laborious class, you know, that's what they said. They're fit for this. Look at their frames. They can endure. When the slave cemetery unearthed itself, they didn't even want them to go in and look at it. Please don't look at it. It's not, no. They found an inordinate amount of infants. So we know the infant mortality rate was very high, which it still is. We knew that the injuries that were sustained during that time, I'll give you an example. They would show the frame of an African-American man, large, strong man. And they were finding injuries that literally do not exist in this time, in contemporary times. They've never seen it. And it is an injury where they show that the muscle completely detaches itself from the bone because of exertion. And the truth of the matter is no human being would ever work that hard to the extent that the muscle will detach itself. But if someone's holding a shotgun over you, you got to do it. So what we tell our children is, look how resilient we are as a people. That's an example of strength. So the issue here in terms of post-traumatic slave syndrome, there's a lot of issues. Because you see, I want you to understand that white people will try to use this against us. I know that. That was a dilemma I have struggled with. But I also know that the truth is the only thing that's going to get us healed. So we got to tell the truth. I can't concern myself with that risk. So I look at the notion of what it is that we're seeing with African American people. We're seeing both a very fragile people and a very, very strong people, a very resilient culture and a very injured culture. That's what I see. And I saw it in the children because that's where my focus was, always on the children, because they are the generation. They are the future. And so I understand when I begin to look at them, some behaviors